Hey guys, how's it going? Well, I got a shop job this time, which you don't always get too many of these. This is a 10 horsepower Sullair model ES6. It used to be called a 6E, but then Sullair changed the model numbers around a little bit. This machine will run continuously, or it will run start-stop. It'll also run continuously modulated. So it will run load-unload continuously and then modulate like a regular larger rotary screw compressor will. The problem with this one is it's passing oil, and I put a few separator elements in it, and everything's kind of glued together, and you'll see when I get it apart all the internal passages, and it's kind of interesting how this whole thing is put together. So here is the control panel for it. It's actually, I have it off the unit right now. It just bolts right to the back here. I swapped this unit out with a unit that I had around here that I pieced together for the guy. He's just kind of using it as a loaner right now. So a few months ago I got an email, or I should say I got a message on eBay from a new guy. I wasn't even familiar with him. His name is Bernie Comptech. He's got a channel. He's a younger fella that's in the compressed air field, and I just bumped into him. He's got these crazy videos out like I have, and he's a really interesting guy. Turn this down a little bit, but if you're into this kind of this type of videos, this guy is probably right up your alley. Like I said, his channel is Bernie Comptech, and he's a younger guy, but he knows his shit. You know, I mean, I've watched a bunch of his videos now, and he's definitely a guy you'd want to watch and watch what he's up to. If this camera will focus, there she goes. But at any rate, he's got a bunch of different videos out on. He basically works on Matei compressors, but does a lot of different vlogs and things of that nature. If my computer will even work like it's supposed to. I have more trouble with this laptop. But at any rate, so he's got quite a few videos. He does a lot of vlogging and whatnot. I'm not really into getting behind the camera, but he is, so check him out. So now back to this thing. The first thing to get this thing all apart here is to remove the back fan guard and then the fan blade. Poor guy. What happened? These fan blades are treacherous on lizards. With the fan guard off, now the trick is to get the fan off. And this one's not too terribly old, but a lot of times a couple of these models have changed. This has a Lincoln motor on it, and the old ones used to have a Marathon motor, and the shaft extended a little bit farther past here. And I mean to tell you, this fan blade is a pain in the ass to get off, just for the simple fact you can't really get anything to pull on here very well, and it gets stuck on the shaft pretty good. It's almost like a HVAC fan blade, if you will. A lot of times they just won't. You just can't. I mean, even you heat them up and heat them up and heat them up, and they don't want to come off here. I'll try real hard with this one, and hopefully have some luck. We'll find out. All right, with the puller on there, it's just going to require some heat in this general area. I don't have a tripod, so what'll typically happen here is I'll try to do this and get this off of here, and it's a real flimsy fan blade, and it's going to end up getting bent, and then it's going to vibrate and shake like a bitch. So it's just like an HVAC fan blade, like I said. And if this was on an HVAC fan motor and the fan motor was bad, I wouldn't even horse around with this. What I always do is just take this cutting torch right here and just cut the shaft right off the damn thing, and then pound the shaft right out of the hub of the fan blade. And that way you don't ever damage the thing, because if you look at this thing funny, you will bend it, and if you bend it, it'll just never run right again. So more than likely, I'm going to end up having to torch this in this general area right here, and then just pull the hub off. Well, as you'll see, it's completely distorted. I've just bent the complete shit out of it because it's not coming off. So if you ever go to put one of these shaft seals in one of these things, you better order a fan blade, because there's no way of doing this job without without removing this fan blade first. And just cut that son of a bitch off there like that, so you have something to work with. It still is no walk in the park. I used to have a HVAC fan blade puller. It had like 3 clamps on it. I never had any luck with the damn thing. I just ended up throwing it away. It looked better on paper than it ever worked. But this will be on here though. It's surprising how these things take a seat. Then your best bet is to recool this whole thing down and start all over again. Alright, I'm going to use this arrangement right here, and undoubtedly going to have to use the torch, and I don't have a tripod, so I guess, and this sucker's on here. And she's not. So let me get it off there. Well, I was able to move it, let's see if you can see here, about yay far, and then she stopped. That was actually, you have to throw in a bunch of heat to it, so cool her down and start all over again. You know, this really shouldn't be, but it is like the biggest pain in the ass part of this whole job, and it ought not to be, is getting this cocksucker off of here. But we'll just get it cold again and put the old puller back on it and heat it, and it should come off. This will get a better grip on it this time. Before I just had just a slight little grip on the back side there. Now I can get in between there and just rifle the bitch off there. Kind of like that. And a little bit farther, but it's stuck again. Tell you what, man, this is just one pain in the ass. I've never had one that came apart easy. Alright, so that son of a bitch is off of there. And that was no easy task, my friend. Actually, what got in the way a little bit there was the key. As you can probably see. Little thunder. The key in there started coming out. And I had a hell of a time. I had to put a socket. I crammed that socket right down there and there just to get that son of a bitch off there. I mean to tell you, for such a little fan blade, it's one of the hardest ones I've ever had to take off in 30 damn years of working on these stupid things. Total troublemaker. Hotter than hell. What a train wreck design. They should come up with a taper lock bushing instead of this horse shit. This would really be fun in the field. Throw a little light on the subject. You can see what I was up against here, right here. If it would focus. You can see the keyway was just stuck. It's like a Sony camera, but it's not. Alright, so the next thing to do here is just go ahead and remove all this bullshit, this control tubing and control piping and different things. And I got the little clevis on here. Going to pick the thing up in the air and pull the cooler off. I fashioned up this nice little hoist, if you will, completely bolted right into the ground. I've actually lifted this whole complete 13B REW motor and transmission combination for my car. That's a whole different story. So she does pick up quite a bit of weight, and it holds it good and tight. It's anchored down big time, and actually can take it out of the ground if I really wanted to. It just has the, I guess the anchor bolts that are in the bottom, and those, anchor nuts. They're really bigger than a nut though. The anchors that are in the concrete, these 5/8 bolts thread right into them, so I could remove the whole thing and it's not in the way if I had to. So, just on a side note. Alright, with the unit up in the air, like this. Also, there are 4 cap screws that are in each one of these corners that protrude through this shroud. And those got to come off first. And then, of course, the lines on the bottom of the unit. That's why it's kind of handy to get it up in the air like this. So I got the fittings loose. This is where the temperature gauge goes in. I had to swap that temperature gauge with the unit that was in the field. So I drained the oil out of this unit before I pulled it out, and it still has a little bit of residual oil in here. This was going through so much oil that I just advised the customer to use a a 10 weight hydraulic oil just to get them by, because it was just getting a little bit out of hand. So that's why the oil looks so brand new. Alright, so now the cooler is off. Now the best bet right here is to take the whole thing, stand it up on end, and what works out best is a cinder block just to sit right in here. And I want to talk about something different right now, really quickly, and that's about tools. And Bernie Comptech does a lot of Snap-on videos and whatnot about how great Snap-on tools are and this, that, and the other. They are great tools, but let's face it, tools don't make a good mechanic. They might make a bad mechanic slightly better, maybe. I don't know. I really don't think so. But at any rate, here's my big rant, okay? Here's this ratchet wrench here that I bought when I was a kid, probably about 21, 22 years old, around maybe 1982, no, excuse me, 83 or 84, right around there. And I've had the ratchet built a few times in it and whatnot. And you can see it is just, the chrome's gone. I mean, there is no more chrome on the thing, on parts of it. And it's just, when you use them every day, they get like this. Now this is one of the, these are one of the items that I brought into several Snap-on trucks, and they said, oh, well, we don't make that kind anymore, and that's not warrantyable. So, fuck it. Here's the Pittsburgh Wrenches, right from Home, or from not Home Depot, but from Harbor Freight Tool. I mean, tell you what, good luck breaking that wrench. I mean, here's a Snap-on wrench. I brought this one into the truck. There's nothing wrong with this wrench, okay? It's just completely missing a bunch of chrome. It looks like fucking shit. You know, this wrench cost as much as probably half of that toolbox that came from Harbor Freight Tool. I'm done with Snap-on tools. I mean, I'm from Wisconsin. I've been to the plant, the whole 9 yards. I was in love with these things, but the Snap-on guys in Florida are a bunch of fucking assholes. Excuse the French, but that's just really what they are. There should be no reason why a guy, a professional mechanic like myself, should be carrying around just worn out, just like fucking having wore out fucking shoes. You're showing up to the job site with holes in your fucking pants. Really says a lot for Snap-on. As far as I'm concerned, I hope the company goes out of business. Alright, so this is a technique I use to lift this thing in this mode, and I'm going to set it right here on this cinder block to support the shaft, and then just, this will be the easy part here. We're easier than that stupid fucking shaft with the fan on it. Remove the bell housing bolts. Alright, now the separator element is located behind this cover right here, and the thermal valve is located just beneath, to the right of the oil filter over here on that hex cap right there. You'll see it when I take the bell housing off. And there is the separator element, and it almost takes a channel locks to remove it. And the scavenger line is this line cutting across right down to there. Alright, with the bell housing off, I'm just kind of looking at an issue here that I'm not so sure that's the problem. But everything is glued together. There is no gasket. It uses a product called Loctite 515 gasket eliminator. Kind of a unique product. But at any rate, it looks like generally in this area right here, a lot of this gasket material is missing. So that would expose this to the sump pressure area here, and maybe possibly protruding oil back into this cavity. But then it would get scavenged, so maybe not. I don't know. It just seems awful strange that this particular part right here has this that is just, it's like loose on here. You can just move it off the side of the, I don't know that that's the problem, but I'm trying to figure out what really occurred here. Now here is the thermal valve, and this all comes right out of here. It takes the needle nose pliers, and you can remove the whole assembly like so. Remove the scavenger line, which is nothing more than an 1/8 inch pressed fit connector and it seems a bit loose, but probably end up replacing this crap. Okay, to remove this next portion, we'll have to remove this bolt, and 2 of the bolts on the air end. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to check them for depth, and then have to knock out these alignment pins right here, and this part will come up and we'll see the gear right here. I remember the way it was now. It's the ones with the seal washer that hold it in place. There's a little tiny little seal washer on this one and on the one on the other side over here. So remove those, and this bolt, knock the pins out, and she'll come right off. Well, this seal washer here was completely missing the seal that's supposed to slide inside of there. Not really slide inside, it's like vulcanized together, so that's missing. This one here seems to be intact. That's the way it should kind of look, like that. You can see the little rubber piece inside of there. Alright, so I got some bad schematics there. This other bolt here has to come out as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts. And I'm not totally sure about this one, but nevertheless, it'll come off. Alright, so there is the gear on the motor. So if you're going to put a shaft seal in one of these things, you got to go all to this point right here and then remove the gear, and I will do that as well. Though I really don't have to if I think about it, because nothing going on there. If you look inside of here, this is the galley right here for the inlet, and then you have your up here where you're supposed to be your dry side of things, which isn't very dry right now, and there's the minimum pressure check valve right there. This will come out of here with the aid of the needle nose pliers. That's where the relief valve is. This is the wet side of the sump tank. And there is the temperature gauge. And then back down around here onto the bottom side where the oil filter is and the thermal valve. At this point, I don't think I'm going to remove this gear because I don't know what the end user wants to do. It probably would be advisable to put a shaft seal in it coming this far, and if you had to, it's almost like the same technique. You know, you get these bolts in here, puller, and you might need a little bit of heat on here. Pull the gear right off, and then you'll have your wear sleeve and shaft seal assembly underneath there. So that's about all for this video. Thanks for watching, guys.